When you're part of an industry, as it starts up, you will be asked to do things that wasn't part of your job description. As a business owner, you will do exactly the same thing. Everybody thought I was stupid and crazy because I was able to penetrate something that not many women was able to do. But you have to understand that at a certain point, you also have to do the things you've always planned to do when you were a kid. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to make cakes. It's going to be very difficult for you to decide and let go of something so certain for something you love but seems so uncertain. You can be very good at something and not be invigorated by it. So I think you have to be able to accept that. Everything that all my BPO experience led me to this.
Welcome to episode 2 of BPO Bytes. Our topic for today is life after BPO. I'm your host, Bam Soliman, Business Development Manager for Solus Plus. With me is my esteemed guest, Chef Bam Soliman, the owner of Custom Cakes by Bam, the community leader for Bake Happy Manila, the largest baking group in the country with a membership of 167,000 all across the country, and the founder of the Design Room, the baking studio where she teaches baking. You're also featured recently as one of the top 10 mompreneurs by Mommy Mondo for 2025.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I'm very proud of that. Well, thank you for having me. This is a first. So I was telling Erwin a while ago that it's the first time that we're in one sit-down session.
Yes.
We usually just do this in our private quarters, right?
Yes.
In our private houses.
Just so you know, we are siblings. She is my sister.
Yes.
I think I left that out in the introduction. Let's kick things off with what are you doing right now? Tell me about your bakery, the brand.
Probably one of the most difficult questions, like what are you specifically doing right now, right? But
What are you up to?
I'm managing our business, which is a custom cake business, and we've evolved into, we're also supplying to corporate businesses, Ren. So it's been a pretty busy quarter for us, especially in terms of, supplying to a lot of the cafes that you probably go to on a regular basis.
Right.
Aside from that, my passion is really teaching. So I've set up a baking studio where I teach every weekend because I feel like, it keeps me very interested I get to learn a lot about the trends in the industry that I'm in because I get to see or meet a lot of people there. So I teach during the weekends, but I'm a baker at heart during the weekdays. And then obviously I have my family also to take care of. My son is going to college, is going to be off to college, so that's keeping me busy as well. So
I see.
it's always a play of balancing different things, both personally and professionally for me.
You had spent the better part of 2 decades.
Yes.
Better part of 2 decades in the BPO industry.
Yes.
In very large companies such as Alorica, Silver Sky, Sykes. And what skills or experiences did you think really helped you, that you learned in the BPO industry, that helped you launch these multiple endeavors?
That's a very difficult question to answer because there's really not just one thing I could think of.
Okay.
Like there's a million things I learned in the
let's
BPO industry.
I'll help you out by cutting it down to bite-sized portions.
All right,
As
yeah.
with everything
I think
else.
that's
That's something I learned from the BPO.
Yes. We were
Yeah.
talking about it
Get a big
earlier,
task.
right? Like
Yes.
cut it down to granular sizes.
Granular
right? Yeah.
size. So day-to-day operations.
Day-to-day.
Let's start with because you have 3 endeavors: the Custom Cakes by Bam, the bakery,
Yeah.
the Design Room, the baking studio, and your online community, all of
Yeah.
which require your time and effort. But to make it easier for you to answer that question regarding BPO skills, let's do it one by one.
Okay.
So the day-to-day operations of the bakery, how do you think what did you learn in the BPO that really helped you out in the bakery setting?
I think it's best to start with, I started in the BPO industry 20 plus years ago when the BPO industry wasn't as big, right? Because I remembered when I first got hired, and our parents would ask me, "So what do you do?" And I would say, "I'm a call center agent." And they would say, ikaw ba yung operator, yung operators, right? I don't know if you know that, if
The
you're
yellow
old enough to
pages
know. Yes.
operator.
Like if you call like for long distance calls, you go through an operator before. For those who are not as old as us. You go through an operator before and you say collect, or you're
I hate
gonna
to
pay
break it
for
down. I
it.
don't think people actually know what the yellow pages and the white pages
Oh my
are anymore.
gosh. So I started as a call center agent for an in-house call center of Siemens. Can I
Yeah.
say the brand?
Yeah.
Siemens. And we use it kasi obviously now you already know the ATMs,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
automatic teller machines. And I was the only one manning the phones. If one ATM goes down, that the bank would call Siemens Sixdorf.
And
I
you
would
would answer the phone.
I would answer the phone. I literally answer the phone, right?
Right.
To deploy an engineer to that place. That was my job before. And then nausa the BPOs, where you outsource services to another company for customer service and technical support. And you'll be surprised. I don't even know if you know this because you were in college then, no? The first support services that I was a part of was the one number delivery hotline of Chowking and Wendy's.
Yes, I know that.
So do you remember I worked
The
in
one,
that
yeah.
call center?
Yeah.
So if you ask me now what the menu of Wendy's is, I know.
You still know it.
because we were required to memorize the menu, what is in the burger, and probably it's a different burger now, but what was in the burger, etc. So I think everybody needs to know where I started. I started there. The BPO industry wasn't as big before. So whenever my parents would ask me, so what do you do? Like, what's your job? Like, I would say I'm a call center agent. Okay, so you're the operator behind that. Yes, so that's the term. So to circle back to your question, so what did you learn from there? I started kasi as a call center agent, then moved into different positions within the BPO industry. And I think what it taught me is, when you're part of an industry, as it starts up, you will be asked to do things that wasn't part of your job description. You will get your hands dirty in answering the phone, sometimes train other people, sometimes recruit for the BPO industry or the BPO company that you're in. As a business owner, you will do exactly the same thing, where you will start off your business recruiting, managing the build out, your finance, you're also the purchaser. So I think the discipline of not being so selective, or the character, because a lot of the things that I know now in running the business, actually I learned from the BPO, because I was able to move around. So I was able to learn about essentials for recruitment, essentials for when I'm looking at a finance report, I would understand it, because in my past life, in managing startups, you were given financial reports. So you will be forced to learn about accounting principles, and you will be forced to learn about operations as well. So the macro view, you will be able to understand that, because I was privileged enough to start my career in the BPO industry as it was growing. To answer your question earlier, when you asked me, so what is it about your experience in the BPO industry that helped you in managing operations? It's really that, no? Because in any business, except for probably just a few, one of your biggest costs and one of your biggest assets will be your people,
Yes.
right? So everything you learn as a team leader, not even as a supervisor, because a supervisor, you're the one-on-one time with your team isn't really as much as if you're a team leader, right?
Right.
But everything that you will learn as a team leader, you will get to use as you manage your own business. Like, they're very surprised, and I think I was telling you this earlier. They're very surprised whenever other business leader or other business owners would ask me, how often do you meet with your team? And I would tell them twice a day. I meet with my team every day at the start of the day and at the end of the day. And for me it came natural. It comes naturally. But for others, they find it pretty weird. But I would tell them, but in the BPO industry where I was a part of, that's actually just, that is expected of you to just meet with your team at the start of the day, to set the direction, meet with them at the end of the day before you go home, to see where we are at in terms of the plans that we set at the start of the day, right? So
Right.
I think that's also the reason why whenever I go to prospective clients to be able to close a deal with them to supply, let's say, cookies, etc., I know the granular issues. Like if they ask me something about, so how do you think you could execute this particular product for us? I will be able to explain it to them. And if they ask me, okay, so what are the challenges that you think we will encounter? Then I can explain it also. It is because of the touch points I have with my team. So you're able to really explain what's going to happen, how you plan to resolve the challenges that you're projecting because you're in touch with the team. And I think that's one of the biggest learnings I had when I was working. They think if you talk to your team, you're micromanaging the team, but it's totally different.
That's just managing. There's nothing micro about that.
Yes. I think when you talk to your team on a regular basis, it's really about connecting with your team members, asking them, making them feel that if there are issues during the day, that you can talk about it. And I think that's a big deal. And I always tell my team, I want to learn about the problem when it's still small.
Right.
Don't involve me when it's already a huge problem. It's not that I don't trust you. It's just that I just want to be updated on what you have done to fix the problem so that I can insert myself if I think you're not able to handle it. So it's not really micromanaging. It's really understanding and knowing what's happening during the day or during the week or during the month.
Right.
Right. I think one of the disciplines that I learned in the BPO when I was working in the BPO industry is the ability to read reports or, understanding the importance of reading reports because you can't manage what you can't measure. If you don't have the discipline of, for example, after the start of that, because this was my thing. My mentor, you have to find a mentor, right? I mean, in any career, you have to find somebody who will mentor you because, you're going into this job pretty green. You
Yeah.
have to accept the fact that you're going into this job not knowing anything about the job that you're going to do. You probably have the potential to be good at it, but obviously, you don't know what to do at the start. My mentor always told me at the start of the team, at the start of the day, you meet with your team. After meeting with your team, or even before or after, you read the reports because the reports will give you the most honest picture of what's really happening, right?
Right.
If you talk to your people, they will say, okay, so we don't have sales because of this, and this. Your reports probably will tell you a totally different story. Then you're able to really validate if what they're saying is true, or if there's something wrong with the reports. And I think one of the things that I learned is if you don't have the tools, any business or any endeavor that you go into, it's a three-legged stool. It's about managing people, process, and technology. That's what I learned in the BPO industry. When you go inside, if you're going to manage something, you're managing just essentially three things. You're either managing a people problem, a technology problem, or a process problem. So it's people, process, and technology, right? And I think I've learned about, that strategy worked in the BPO industry before when I was part of it. Therefore, I'm doing it now. So every single problem that I encounter or any achievement I I celebrate with my team, I always ask myself, were we successful because we had a good team of people, a good set of processes, or was my technology great? And then if you're able to figure that out, then you know what to invest in or you know what to stop, right?
how did you
I can
differentiate a process
differentiate. Yeah,
issue?
you want me to
Yeah,
like?
yeah. Give an
Okay,
example.
so people, process, and technology, right? So, if the problem that you're facing with, obviously, people issue is very simple. Was it an issue pertaining to that was driven by the qualification of the person, right? Is it because if it's a people issue, you already know. Okay, did you hire the right person for the job
Yeah.
or not? It's a very technology is you have the right people, they want to do the job excellently, but they just simply don't have the tools for it. And I can give you a perfect example. If you're measuring your agents based on talk time or work time, right? You've trained the person efficiently, he knows what to do. But the downtime of the technology that they're using, or the CRM, the customer relationship management system, the runtime or the work or the downtime is just too high. You know, it's a technology issue. Because even if I put somebody who's trained,
You could put the best agent in the
yes.
world.
And if they will fail when it comes to measuring talk time or work time, you know it's a technology issue.
Yes.
Then don't be frustrated with the person. Be frustrated at whoever is taking care of the technology. Look at your internet services. Look at your the probably the computer, etc. Right?
Right, right.
If it's a process issue, it's tied up, always tied up to both.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah,
I said
it's
I had
connected to
trouble
both, right?
differentiating it.
Yeah. So you have a very smart person, but the process that he has to go through to answer the problem is just inefficient.
Okay.
For example, for a repeat caller, do I really have to ask these validation,
Right.
like the questions to validate identity, right?
Right.
Is it, if it's a repeat call, do I really have to ask the caller again, to tell me again what the problem is? So when it comes to the how, like the scripting, how to resolve the process and how to resolve it, the decision markers, like if yes, go to this, if no, go to this, and you know that it's a process issue. So I guess going back to that, while we know that we can have emotional outbursts because we're humans, you can lessen it by just drilling it down to the cause, right? But by just sitting down and asking yourself which of the because like I said, it's a three-legged stool. Which of the leg is malfunctioning? I think Filipinos in general, I'm not saying all because people might bash me for saying this, but we're very highly emotional people, right? The default answer is always it's a people issue. We always if
Assume.
assume that it's a problem with the people that we're hiring, or the people that we have. But you will be surprised that majority of the issues most likely is a process issue or a technology issue. You have to understand one thing. When a person goes to your workplace or works for you, they don't start working for you expecting to do a poor job. So if they do a poor job,
That's on you.
that's on you. That's You have to ask yourself, what can I do? What needs to change to be able to support that person? Now, it's going to be a totally different story if you provided everything that he needs, and it's really just not working out. Then probably then I still go back to a process issue. Your hiring process. Did you even hire the right person for the job?
Yes.
So I think that's something to really think about or ponder on.
This is a story I told you earlier, but I'm going to repeat it for everybody at home. We had an experience wherein I was in a tech support account. And it started when we introduced new products for the agents to support. There was a new line of computers that they needed to support, and we noticed there was a spike in absenteeism. Going back to what you said, that the assumption would always be the people.
Yeah.
That was the initial assumption. Oh, it's just the people. So we need to penalize people for absenteeism. We need to
Set of
drive
incentives
a set of
for those who come
incentives
to
for those who
work.
come to work.
Yeah.
But upon deep diving, and this is when we did like a really in-depth analysis of what the issue is, we can't assume that, right? That's it was a process issue. What was the process? The agents were being absent because they felt like they could not properly support the new line of products. So they felt that the training that they were getting was insufficient. So what initially was thought of as a people issue is, as you mentioned, a process issue. The training was not good. So
Yeah.
we needed to improve the training. And
So they
by the
didn't want to come in because they couldn't do their jobs
nahihiya
well.
sila.
Yeah.
Because they felt like,
It's a normal thing,
which is a
right?
normal thing, right? Nahihiya sila. Parang they felt like they were embarrassing themselves when a customer calls and they couldn't do it
Yeah.
because they weren't prepared. So at the same time, they themselves assumed it was a people issue. It was their issue. Na maybe it's just me, and I couldn't learn what was being taught. But because it happened widespread, clearly there is something wrong with the training module or the preparation that was made for that particular product, which caused it. So yeah, going back to your point.
And you'll be surprised that you will lose a lot of talent if you don't identify that that's the problem.
Yes, because you
right?
will be attacking the people.
Yes, you will be terminating people for
You'll assume it's a behavioral issue.
yes.
I think that's worth reiterating. Nobody starts work for you wanting to
Wanting
do
to do
a poor job.
They
Everybody
always
wants
want
to do their best.
succeed.
Yeah, everyone wants to
Right?
succeed. You were in the BPO industry for almost 2 decades, and you achieved a level of success that most people that are in the BPO industry think that would be the pinnacle. You were at the executive level already. So, at what point was there an aha moment where you thought, okay, normally, again, if you were from the bottom looking up, if I saw you at the executive level, she's made it. Mom has made it. She's going to be there forever. She's not ever going
I'm
to
not
leave.
gonna ever leave.
Yeah,
the
because
BPO
that's it.
industry.
That is the top of the mountain,
Right.
So you would think, okay, the only thing she's looking at right now is just the increase in her salary, but
Yes.
she's probably going to do that for until the end. What was there an aha moment where you thought, okay, I can now I should try my hand at starting my own business, or there's this endeavor that I've been thinking about. Now's the time to do it, or was it more a
A
gradual?
planned exit.
Yes.
I think majority of the people that I talked to when I was sharing my plan, and I'm going to tell you a lesson later on that I learned along the way, right?
Right.
But I'll leave that up. I'll leave that off till later. Number one, it wasn't a planned exit.
Okay.
Okay. You're right when you say, looking at my life at the BPO or with the call center industry, everybody thought I was crazy for leaving it. Because let me just give you an honest view of how difficult it was for me to move up. When you go in a boardroom of a BPO company, you will only see majority men calling the shots. It's very difficult for a woman to get a C position in the BPO industry. I was fortunate enough to have that.
Yes.
And I say that not to boast about it. I say that because there should be more room for women in the BPO industry. Because I always have that message of, they should employ more women, promote more women, etc. Okay, so that's the story kasi. So when I told my mentors that, okay, I'm gonna quit, I'm gonna open my own bake shop, and I'm just gonna do it for a living. Are you crazy? Everybody thought I was stupid and crazy because I was able to penetrate something that not many women was able to do, right? So, like in my last job, just to give you some, just to set the stage, right? It was my last job was for a US military contractor. I set up their only Asian BPO only BPO in Asia. I was the first Asian, I was the first Filipino, and the first woman to get the general manager position. So everybody thought, I'm sure she's happy. I'm sure she's earning. And they were very generous. I'm sure she's happy. I'm sure, she's earning a lot, etc. And how, she's never going to leave that role.
Right.
But you have to understand that at a certain point, you also have to do the things you've always planned to do when you were a kid. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to make cakes. It was a planned exit, mostly because I've always wanted to build this business of mine as a side business for so long. So I did. So while I was doing great at my career, I would, people would be very surprised to see me in food markets selling cookies. And at the start, I only just did it because I wanted to bake. And my husband couldn't eat everything that I bake. So, might as well. Let's join this bazaar and I'm going to sell, right? So, and then that became a side business. It became very clear to me that I wanted to retire and leave because it was my husband who sat me down and said, you know what? If you're going to do two things at the same time, starting your own business and have a career at the level that you're having it, you won't be good at any of them because your time is split.
Right.
You're
And both those endeavors require 100% commitment.
Yes. I don't think my business would have expanded as quickly as it did if I didn't stop my 9 to 5 job and just full go, 100%. So I needed to make a decision. And it was a tough decision because of the money aspect. But it became easier because I think, you're good friends with my husband before I even, met him, right?
Right,
You
yes.
met him, una muna. Because I had his support. And I'm also am honest to say that not every woman is as privileged as me to have the husband support.
Also, incidentally, your husband, you met at the BPO
Yes.
and was working at
Yes,
the
was
BPO
work.
as well.
Yeah.
So he understands the workings of your, to a certain extent, he understands the workings of your job, of your 9 to 5
Yes,
job.
yes. So I know, I also understand, and I don't want to say motherhood. So when you follow your passion, alam mo, it doesn't work kasi that way. When I say this, of course you should follow your passion, but not every passion you can turn into a business. And I think that's the thing, no? You can be good at you can do it as a side business and just focus on your career in the BPO industry and everything will be great. I just was at that point where I couldn't do it anymore because the pressure of my career is getting in the way of my business and the pressure of my business is getting away in the way of my career. So I had to choose one.
Right.
So I did the crazy thing of
Which not so crazy in
quitting.
hindsight.
Well, in hindsight, yes. Pero here's the thing. If you're going to do it, this is how I'm going to do it differently if I do it again.
Right.
Number one is have a plan because I didn't have a plan before. I just
Did
quit.
it.
I just did it.
Okay.
Head on. The first year was terrible because I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a financial plan, etc. Second is it's going to be very difficult for you to decide and let go of something so certain for something you love but seems so uncertain.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't as happy with my career because I was good at it, the assumption of the other people's assumption was, she's happy because she's very good at it. You can be very good at something
And not like it.
and not be invigorated by it. So I think you have to be able to accept that. Third is, I think you need to really accept your privilege. And I say that not to discourage people from going into business. I'm just saying that you really have to balance. I was privileged at that time to have the rules that I was given and to be paid for it. And you have to really think twice whether you're going to let that go over something that feels so because you're going to be excited anyway. You're going to be very excited, but you really have to be objective in making that decision of whether it's just excitement or is it really something that you can earn from.
During your transition, were there any resources, knowledge wise, like books, courses, what have you, that you felt really helped that you would recommend to anybody else making that transition?
What really helped for me is really the community that I built. But the community of when I built Bake Happy Manila, there were a lot of encouragement coming from people who are not business owners, but who are just purely bakers who would tell me how talented I was. And then they were the ones who taught me, okay, ma'am, you know what? If you're going to open a business, you should talk to this person. Totally not chefs, right? I mean, business people who manage to transition, but in a totally different industry. That's where I really got majority of the mentoring. Parang they gave me or they taught me how to do the transition because it's real life experience. So I would call them even until now. I would still call them and ask, are you experiencing this problem? And they would tell me, yes, and this is normal. It's how I normally would do it or how I would normally resolve it. So it's really, and I think that's the reason why I became a community builder because, there's a small group of people who really helped me with the transition.
I think if you need to be able to differentiate if you are in the wrong industry or just in the wrong company.
Yes.
Because if you are burnt out, that doesn't mean that the BPO industry isn't for you. It could just be you need to move to a company
that will better suit you.
That will better suit you.
Yes. And I think we should let go. We should normalize this kasi there has been a lot of discussions around, wala namang, if you're an employee, you'll always be an employee, etc. But you could be a great employee. You could stay in a company for so long, retire in that company, and still have the best life. I think it's a fairy tale when you tell people, parang it's not right if you tell people, you should at some point retire and open your own business. Is not for everyone.
That's something that I also learned kind of the hard way. It's very easy to say, "Oh, just start your own business."
Yeah.
Not everyone is business oriented.
Not everyone is. But there are days when I feel like I'm not built for business, and I want to go back to work.
And you're already
for
successful,
BPO.
so.
well, yeah. But there are days when I would say, I want to go back to the BPO industry and just do this because I feel like I felt I was very good at it, so. Yeah, not the business is not for everyone. So don't listen to other people telling you if you're just an employee, you're not gonna be successful because you're just an employee, etc. There's no such thing. I mean, if you're an employee and you're doing really well, then that's a great life for you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's a very the journey that you will take is very personal, such that nobody can really tell you what or what not to do or what's right for you. Only you know it. So if at the end of the day you're happy with your job,
Good.
You're invigorated by it, you're right. If something changes and it's driven because you're in a different company who doesn't share your values, then change the job. Don't change careers, change the job or change the company.
Yes, because even if you change the job, you will still retain all of the skills and experience that you've gained so far.
Yeah.
Right? So that is easily transferable. Speaking of transferable, I know we already talked about some of it, but for somebody who's in the BPO industry now, who may or may not leave it, what skills do you think they should focus on or develop? Because this will be valuable regardless if you stay in the industry or you go out on your own.
I wouldn't want to go very specific, I would just go back to when we started this interview and I told, your viewers or your audience that the biggest value for me was being able to understand, even at the macro level, all the areas of the business. Being able to understand how HR works, being able to understand how recruitment works, being able to understand how finance works, business development, marketing, etc. I think if you're going to be very micro with your job, meaning you're just focused on, because there's a lot of talk surrounding, work-life balance. I was hired to do this, therefore I will only learn this and I will just do this every day.
Yes.
But the thing is, there's a lot of value if you go sometimes in your off days or off hours when you're not doing anything, talking to your accounting team and asking the questions to better understand how accounting works, right? If you know that, I'm not saying you have to be really, how to do a ledger, etc., but just how it works, right? You will be able to use that later on when you retire to be able to come up with a retirement plan. If you're going to open a business, more so because you're going to understand how to set up your own business. Team leads are now encouraged to look at the P&L of an account.
Yes.
Is that the same? Because
Yes.
it's been years since I was. You're encouraged to really learn the P&L of the account. Learn it. You're encouraged to talk to recruitment teams and understand how they recruit for your account, right?
Yes.
You talk about qualifications. You're the ones directing the qualifications of your team members. Learn it. Where do they source? How do they set the salaries, etc.? So don't be so focused on your job that you're forgetting that there are other things to the puzzle that you also need to understand. So being
Yes, you're right. I think we can boil down to you should always be curious.
yes.
Me as a person, which is I one of the things that I learned in the industry is I always want to know how things work because I feel like whatever I am doing, I can do better if I understand how it works. It even goes down to like I want to understand how when I order food,
You
I
want to
want to
understand how
understand
it's
how it's
prepared?
cooked, how it's
Yeah.
prepared.
Me
Uh,
naman, the BPO brain is when I order food, I want to understand how does this go to the kitchen, right? Is it, is there a
what process
technology that
goes
goes,
through
yeah,
that?
what's processing? Yeah. At least in your head, you already know those things. Therefore, at the top of mind, let's say, if the customer tells you, okay, this is the budget for this particular account, you already know top of mind, okay, we need to negotiate because, because it's hard to recruit. If it's a business development person who doesn't know these things, normally they will bow down to the budget of the client,
Yes.
right? You will just say to be able to close the account, you will just say, okay,
Okay.
then we'll go ahead and do it for that price, right? But I think negotiations and I've learned this the hard way too. You're able to negotiate really well if you know what it will take to be able to run it successfully. And you will be proud of the fact you will be firm with your price because you want to make it more successful,
Yes.
right? So, and I think that's the upside there. So,
So you handle three things, right?
yeah.
The bakery, the online community, and the baking studio.
Yeah.
Did you launch all of that at the same
No.
time?
I launched a community
Oh, it
before.
was community
It was
first.
community first. I started with Bake Happy Manila.
Okay. Again, Bake Happy Manila has 168,000
168,000
members nationwide. It is the largest
And
baking
most
community
engaged, I
and most
think.
engaged baking community in
And
the
the
country.
oldest, which I
It's
don't
the
wanna,
oldest?
it's one of the oldest in
Oh,
the
really?
Philippines. I
And
think it's a pioneer in the
and
Philippines.
I really like you once told me how it started.
Yeah, it
and
started with me trying to find a baking pan, right?
yeah, baking pan. And your motto at the start was there are no stupid questions.
Yes.
If you want to ask, hey, how do I make crinkles?
Yes, then we'll teach you how to make
No
crinkles.
one will make fun of you.
Yes, yes.
And that's
Okay.
great.
I think in any endeavor now, when I created Bake Happy Manila, when I founded it in 2012, My gosh. 2012, imagine 13 years. Um, in 2012, I looked at my friends list and I looked at the people whom I thought were baking because of their posts. I was trying to look for a topsy-turvy baking pan. That's the whole point of the group before eh. Parang, okay, so I'll set up all these people, put them in a group, and then I'll ask one question. Where
Where
can
can
I
I
buy
find a
this
baking
baking
pan?
pan?
Okay.
And then I was given like, grabe, hundreds of comments sa yata at that time, no? Pero, it was, parang the engagement was really through the roof. So I was very honest when it came to me posting about the challenges of opening up a business. And I think it grew from there. So when I opened the bakery, I was posting about the journey of opening one, right? So looking for a place. The place was so expensive. How can I pay for the place? And then they would encourage me, and then it grew from 40 people to 168,000. And then in between, I opened up my bakery. And then I focused first on custom cakes where we would do cakes that, would make bespoke cakes.
Mm.
It was my husband, Gilbert, who told me, I think you should look at being able to supply to other businesses as well because retail is too volatile. So, which I did. I started the retail and then it was very volatile. Sometimes you had sales, sometimes you didn't. And then it was my husband who told me to go into business to B2B. So now we're handling a lot of cafes. We supply their pastries. Margins are not really high, but their volume is really very regular. And I think that's the nature of any B2B, right? I don't know if it's also the same for shares or, if it's B2B, it's margin is low, but if it's retail or consumer market, it's very high. The design room came as something, it was a passion project for me because I had all this space that I was paying for and I was able to build. And during the weekends, I had nothing to do with it. And then I said, why do I teach? I have the setup already. I mean, I if I'm going to invest, I'm just gonna invest like a little money pa lang at that time. So it's a BPO skill, right?
Yes.
What did we always get drilled with? So what's your productivity rate? Right? In the BPO industry, I was often asked that question. What's your productivity rate? Meaning, how productive are the resources that I was able to give you, be it people, process, or technology?
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I created the design. We had all this space. I built it as I know before. It used to be the commissary, but last year we had enough money to really build a studio, which is from ground up. So we renovated the space. Now we have a studio now. So if you look at my trajectory, I was in E. Rodriguez before with an EP, a cockroach infested space.
Yeah.
Now we're in this nice building where we were able to build it up. Now, if you're going to ask me, in 2014 when I started all this, what my vision was, I never envisioned it to be this. So let me tell you, you will surprise yourself.
Because it will evolve.
It will evolve into a totally different thing. I think that's the main lesson here. Whatever it is that you're dreaming of, it will change later on because life happens, right?
Right.
So, yun lang. I think you just have to be prepared for the ride. That's why I'm saying business is not for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm not discouraging anyone from. I mean, if you think it's for you, then go ahead and do it. I'm just saying it's a lot tougher because you don't have a steady paycheck, right? So.
Yeah, but at least you were able to maintain again things that you learned in the BPO were kind of invaluable even in the
Oh
evolution of
yes.
your
And I
business.
was telling you earlier when we were having coffee, everything that all my BPO experience led me to this.
So if you had started out without the
Without
BPO
any BPO, I would
and
have failed
you would have failed at the
years ago.
years ago.
I'll give you a perfect example. If you look at how I set up my bakery, I think we're the only ones who really invested in technology, a CRM.
Oh.
I wouldn't have been able to think about that if it weren't for my BPO
Previous BPO
experience.
experience.
We have an order taking system. Our admins have that system. It's connected to the system our production team opens. So whenever I was able to write down a processor, okay, customer comes in, they have a standard response, right? So the standard response, and I'm sure it's going to be different because of AI later on, but so we have a system, and I learned the value of having technology when I was in the BPO industry. Because if you have a stellar performer, now on its own have the skills and you equip them with the right technology, I'm going to tell you they're really gonna do amazing stuff for you.
Yes.
Because if you're going to make, if all it does is to make their jobs easier, then it's worth the investment. So we invested in the CRM. So now if you're going, I can ask my admin, hand me a phone, I can ask my admin right now, okay, can you look back at all of the sales since 2014 when they started this? How many birthday cakes? How many anniversary cakes? How many wedding cakes? They will be able to pull up the data in a matter of minutes. If you're going to ask me the customer behavior, what is the average bill of this particular customer? They can pull it up.
Oh.
So if the customer calls through phone, which is essential, if they call through phone or through social media, all they need to do is to search for the name of that customer in our database. And I can tell you, okay, ma'am, it's your birthday today. You ordered a birthday cake from us 2 years ago. Tell me a bakery who could say those info. I don't know. I could probably just think of a few, right? So a lot of people thought I was crazy in investing in it, but majority of our sales now are because the customer feels connected with us, kasi we know them.
Yes.
So that's the reason why I say whatever success I've had as a business person, it is because of the journey of being able to work in the BPO industry. I've learned a lot. And yes, you're right. I would have closed the shop
If you
soon
had
after I opened it. If I just opened it after college, not having this,
a career in the BPO industry.
yeah. My husband would si Gilbert would laugh at me because at the start of the day, I would do like a team huddle. I would say, okay guys, we can do this, etc., etc. And then my husband would say, grabe, BPO na BPO Hindi kasi diba?
Yes.
You have to be able to encourage them to do really well.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of BPO Bytes. So I think our biggest takeaway is that there is in fact life after the BPO. But more than that, there is still life in the BPO. So all of the skills and experiences that you learn in the BPO industry not only translates to a career outside of it, but it is truly a career wherein I think you mentioned before that there is nothing you should be proud. If you're an employee, you can be a great employee,
Yeah.
and it will give you a fulfilling
Yes.
career and life.
So it doesn't have to be one thing or another. Well, it was great being here. I hope you could visit us, or your viewers could visit our bake shop soon. Or if you have, anything for example, if you're celebrating something, we could make a cake for you. But I think my biggest takeaway also here is that you seem to be very happy with your career. So you can go to you can go to Custom Cakes by Bam, which is our we're on Instagram and on Facebook. But if you're also if you want to learn how to bake, I also teach. You can go to the Design Room PH.
Again, thank you for coming.